Equity and margin. In the previous tutorial, we explored an example where we were opening a hypothetical order of 0.1 lots. Now, to create this transaction, we required $12,322. And because that was quite a substantial amount, we explored the concept of leverage. And in fact, we found that with a leverage of 1 to 100, we could borrow 99% of the required amount from the broker, and we would only be required to put in 1% or $123. Now that amount that we need to put in, the $123, is called the margin for this transaction. And today we're going to talk more about the margin and find out exactly why the broker is willing to lend us 99% and how leverage works in the background and how all of these concepts play out when you open an order and when the market goes against you and when the market goes in your favor. So let's jump straight into it. So here is our $500 balance, and now we want to open that transaction which we talked about. So the broker puts in $12,199, we put in $123, the $123 is our margin, and the remaining funds, so the 500 minus the 123, the $377, that is called the free margin. Now here we're going to introduce one more concept, and that is the concept of equity. Now normally equity is defined as the balance on your account plus or minus any unrealized profit or loss. So basically your balance is constant until you actually close your transaction, but your equity reflects whether the market is going in your favor or it's going against you. However, in this example, to start off with, we're going to kind of introduce equity backwards. We're going to introduce equity as the free margin on your account plus the margin. There's no big difference, and you'll see just in a few moments how that is exactly the same as what we discussed about balance and unrealized profit or loss. So there's our equity. We're going to outline it with a green bracket here on the right. And now let's see what happens as the market moves in either direction. So we'll start off by looking at what happens when the market moves against us. So if the market moves against our position, then first of all, let's say it moved against us and the unrealized loss on our account is $100. So as you can see, the margin is intact, the broker funds are intact, but the free margin has reduced by $100. And therefore, our equity has also reduced by $100. At the same time, we should note that the balance hasn't changed. So that big box, the overall box is still $500, and still it looks like we have $500 on our account because that's our balance. But in reality, there is an unrealized loss, and it's called an unrealized loss because you haven't yet closed the transaction. So that loss might change into a profit with time, or it might increase as a loss. So if the market keeps going against us, now the free margin has reduced by $200 and the equity has reduced by $200. And at the same time, the borrowed funds and the margin, the frozen margin, are still intact. Now, what happens if the market keeps going against us? Well, what will happen is a stop out. So a stop out is when the broker sees that you have lost quite a lot of funds and you don't have any free margin left, and in that case the broker will automatically close your position, and this loss will become a realized loss, and that way they will be able to pull out of this position. So because they lent you some money, now they see that the position has gone against you. They don't want to lose any of the money that they lent you, so they're just going to close your position and pull out their $12,199. And in this case, the margin acts as a safety net or a safety buffer. So basically the broker is saying, okay, this trader doesn't have any free margin left. We should close the position, and in that case, what will happen is they pull back the $12,199 and you get back your margin. So your margin is returned to you. So why does the broker use this margin as a safety buffer? Well, because while they're closing the transaction, the market can actually move and they might not have enough time to close the transaction spot on that margin level. So the market might even move a bit further against you and might eat into your margin, and you won't get $123, you might get $100 back or $90 back or even $50 back. So that is their safety buffer. So that is the funds that will get eaten into before the funds that they actually lent you. So that's how the broker uses the margin as a safety net. And as you can see, the equity has also reduced to the size of the margin. Now, the stop out can happen at when all of your free margin is eaten up, so when you only have margin left, or maybe when you have half of your margin left. So the broker might, in its terms and conditions, specify that it will allow 50% of the margin to be used up before the stop out occurs, or it might allow 70% of the margin to be used up. So you have to refer to the terms and conditions of your broker to understand at which point a stop out will occur. And another thing you should be aware of is that sometimes there'll also be a margin call. So a margin call normally occurs before a stop out, and it's a warning from the broker telling you that you're getting very close to the stop out level and you should intervene and do something about it. Now, it's not necessarily going to happen. You're not necessarily going to have a margin call, and in fact, a lot of brokers might have the margin call set at the same level as the stop out. So basically the margin call won't happen because it's too late anyway. The stop out has occurred. So that's another thing you should look into and check with your broker, check in the terms and conditions or the product disclosure statement and find out is there a margin call? When does it occur? What levels do the stop outs occur at? Okay, so that's what happens if the position goes against you. Now let's see what happens if the position goes in your favor. Back to the start, here we've got our equity on the right, free margin and margin, and let's say you have set a take profit somewhere up at the top over there where the dashed or the dotted line is. Now, if the position moves in your favor, so here we can see that we've earned some money. As you can see, your position still isn't closed, so your balance is still $500, but your free margin has increased. So any unrealized profit or loss is being added to your free margin. And therefore, as you can see, your equity is increasing. And that's a good thing because now you can use this free margin to open more transactions if you wish to do so. But we're not going to go into that. Let's continue with this example. So your free margin is increasing, your equity is increasing, and the market keeps moving in your favor, and it hits your take profit. Hooray! Your free margin has increased, your equity has increased. At the same time, you can see that the margin is still the same, still $123, and the amount of money that you borrowed from the broker hasn't changed. It's still $12,199. So what happens next is your position closes. The broker pulls back their amount, so they take back their $12,199, and your margin is released and it is added to back to your account. So it was always on your account, but now it's released and